our playlist on our YouTube page, and it actually will give all the information. So I won't go too deep into it, but here we are in Ableton. We have some stuff already created, and let's just kind of listen in here. Couple different scenes here. So I named this verse because this is where we're going to eventually create our verse. I personally really like the swing beat. Going on from there. A little bit of a beat build up, cut time, double time. And then we have this breakdown melody. Cool. So actually, I will like this swing beat. We actually want to just go ahead and copy this over here and zero that out. And this one, I'm going to bring up and copy and paste in up here. So it should have that swing upbeat. So sometimes I make up noises to start getting the beats or melodies going on. And I then change it into a MIDI or a sample. Sometimes my voice can just be that. So let's actually just go into this for a second. And we'll go into record mode on this channel. We'll put a little bit of a stop button here. So this right here is just something that we can now add in. I can obviously turn that into an instrument or just put that in. So today we're not going to get too much more into the beat making. We're going to go into the melodies. And I know in the beat making section, I did some melody making on the bass. And that's because beats and melodies intersect, right, with the song creation. So it's not always that I start with the melody or start with the beat. It kind of goes back and forth. So, but my goal today is to get mostly into our beat making. Sorry, our melody making. So here we go into melody making. Ba-dum-bum-bum. So I'm hearing some horn parts. And what I want to do here is go into my, I'll type in horns. So there are some wavetable brass here, matrix horns. I'll just add it in toward the end here just to see how this sounds. I'm kind of going in blind, y'all. I don't really have a plan for today in regard to what the melody is going to sound like, but the beautiful thing is that we're going to stay in the right key and or change modes, etc., and go from there. So let's go into note making. Cool. I do like that sound. So it's as easy as copy and pasting if we want to do the same melody. over here. Let's try this out. Now, if you guys want to take this melody and bring it up an octave, you can press Shift, the up key, and try that out. All right, so we got some automation. Let's try this out. Show automation. And let's record some of this. So. All right, there are automations in there. Now, I didn't really have to go through and automate that all by hand. I could just take this portion right here, copy, and paste, right? That's another way to do it. But I did want to customize it per beat and have that kind of human feel. So that's why I did it all by hand all the way through there. So as you can see, all the automations right there. And so now when we go in from this, the two breakdown melodies, it's got that lower octave there. All right, and you can break back into the verse. So this is where I personally like to create a little color mapping on the side of just an empty MIDI of all the ones that I'm using, because in the push 2, these color mappings really make it easy for you to see where you're at. So I think this is our first one, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, right? And we'll just go through and map these out. Yellow. It's kind of random, but the goal of this is to have it to where it's very clearly a different color than what's previously put up there. And it's a lot of contrast, right, from the previous color. So something similar, you might want to do the same color marking on your master chain to have that connect. So then what I would do is I'd bring over, if you have your push, let me get my head on the other side so you guys can see what I'm doing. Yeah, so if you have your push here, then you're actually seeing the color coding right away of where you want to be. And then right where there's no color, right on that very bottom, that's kind of showing where it ends, right? So I'm going to clean this up, and there's a lot of tracks here from before that we just don't even need. I'm going to go ahead and just delete these. Delete the bottom. Delete, you can also backspace, and that should delete those as well. The swing R&B, that actually could sound cool. Yeah, I think we're using that one, so we might keep that one in there. And then all of these three I'm also going to delete. Backspace also works for that. All right. We don't need to record on that. I did actually like this. And also, so on this vocal channel, we have a little bit of this vocal strip that came in with our preset, and kind of nice to kind of see what's here. There's no macro variations in here yet, but you can see there's a utility and a bunch of stuff, but I want a Redux on here. So to kind of get a little bit more grit out of that. So let's type in Redux and go into audio effects, drive and color pop up. There's Redux. Vintage sampler. Let's put that toward the end of this chain here. So when we're listening to, we can solo this out and there's some panning going on here. And what I'll try and do on this live stream is I'm going to go into advanced controls and make it to where you guys can hear, instead of mono, we'll make it to where you guys can hear the same panning. So if you guys want to hear that, put your stereo speakers left, right in front of you, or put your headphones on. You can kind of hear this going on a little better. Right? It's more center. Kind of bouncing it back and forth a little bit. All right, so going back into our melody, because that's what we're trying to focus on here. Really important to know which key you're in. And what I often do, because I'm a guitarist, is I play it on the guitar and find out where the key is. Interesting part of this is that we're in the key of C major. However, there's a lot of rooted tone on D, right? So this is where we start kind of getting into a different mode of playing. And I personally really, this draws my ear in so much when we really focus on that 2, the D, being the tonal center. And that's kind of what we're doing with these melodies. So I'm going to continue with that into the other parts. And I'm going to go into horns again and see what we have. So we did wavetable. There's an instrument rack of brass. Okay. I'm not sure if we really... That's not what I'm looking for. So that's the one we did. Okay. So I believe that there was a pack that I downloaded that I really liked. I'm not quite sure where it was, but the retro synth is also a great spot to where we could get into some cool sounds. Let's turn our... All right, that low and the high of that could be pretty cool. And what we want to do is get this into a MIDI device. And we're going to use Simpler to create this. This low and the high. I'm going to go ahead and put this into my instruments so I can really get back to it easily. And adding in our Simpler. Bonk. Let's drop that right onto our new MIDI track. And then we had our low and high. Let's start with the low one. Okay, and the same thing goes where we're going to take the same melody and copy and paste it over here and see how this sounds. This is where I don't want the same thing, so I'll take out that automation. Go ahead and duplicate this, Command D, and I'm going to take the octave higher on this one and drop this in, and let's try and listen to both the new one now. Put some reverb on there, that vocal hall reverb. Now I'm gonna, you can hold down Command and put both together. So this automation is a little bit much now, and we can actually go in there pretty easily and change up this automation. I'm going to go Command Tab to switch over to show the automation. I'm going to highlight the entire automation chunk. And as I'm on a blue area, just get close to it, I can then draw it down so it's not going to be raised as much. A little more subtle. Now this is where this low is actually more like a bass. So I'm gonna put this in our kind of our bass tones, slide this over. And then these two right here were kind of the melody. So I'm just gonna kind of see what it would look like if we pan these left, right. Now you can do this right here. I'm gonna double click these again, or you can do it on your utility. Okay, the utility, if it's not already on your channel, you wanna put it there. It's a great way to add in just a little bit more volume with your gain, or do your pans here. If you do your volume gains and automate things from inside utility, it just cleans it up for when you're mixing later on. So one is pan one way and the other is pan the other. And once again, it's a pretty clean sound. So I'm going to go back and type in Redux. And if it's getting hard to get into that Redux sound, I can always right click it and put it into my effects. So it'll always be in this effects one that I named effects. Easier to get to in your collections. All right, going back in there, and I'm going to go ahead and this melody, I'm going to make this a melody group. So Command G groups these together, and I'm going to call this rename melody, and I can put all my melodies in there. Now, this is where I'm going to put my vintage Redux right onto that melody. There we go. All right, so we have our different parts here. We got some melody coming out, matching the bass tone. This is going to be kind of like a breakdown melody, which is everything's playing it together. But what happens when you are in a part that is like in the verse, right? You want something that's going to leave you space to start doing your melodies of vocals or whatever else is coming in. So there was one instrument called brass. I'm just going to look that up really quick. Brass quartet. Spitfire samples. Cool. Short notes. So you might even want to do like a combination of some of these. All right. So let's go ahead and get back into our melodies here. We have our group. And we'll just kind of continue building off. Command-Shift-T can bring in a new melody in that group. And let's try one of these out. That's kind of cool. This might be a cool little interlude. So these are moments when this is a brass part that is already created, right, with some melodies. Depending on which key we're in, this is going to be changing quite a bit, right? So noticing that when I'm on that, it starts on G. Then we have, G on the bass, F. Oops. Control Z. Don't want to move anything. So these are some chord tones that might help us. Let's go ahead and just listen to this for a sec. And this obviously is not the right beat. So the reggae tone is going to be way too fast for this. Let's go ahead and put in our swing and take out reggae tone. And let's see. So it's actually, the melody still doesn't quite fit because it's a 90 BPM melody. So we can actually go into melodies that are a little bit higher up here. Or we're at 160, so half of that, right? 80 might work out pretty good. Okay, so let's try and put that one in. All right, so I'm noticing that this is obviously double timed because we have it at 160 BPM up here. And instead of the halftime. So one thing we could do is let's change this into, this is going to be a break. Oops. Control Z, rename break. And let's change our BPM. You guys aren't seeing this up here. I just changed this to say break. And then our BPM, we're going to purposely put in 80. And there, see how it gets highlighted kind of bold? That means that it will jump to 80 BPM. So that means that our beat probably won't sound good at 80 BPM here. Let's just play it for a sec. Putting more stop buttons here. So that beat now, let's do an 80 BPM beat. And I'm typing this in up here, and we're just going to try and select all and see what comes up. And these are some beats that might need to be on their own channel. So I'm going to add in that. And as I add this in, I'm going to make sure that I unselect the next one here by zeroing that out. I'm going to come in here. Making the groove change, right? So once you put your groove on, you can assign it just by that little button right there. Let's go ahead and put the same groove on the horns. All right. So this is a spot where we can actually change the key pretty easily if everything can change out like that at the same time. Now, if we want to get something in this verse, we want to get some middle sound. So let's get into our melodies again. And let's just see how this one's working out for us. Go into note mode. I really like that Redux going on. So I'm noticing kind of more in like a D scale, D melodic minor scale. Going into some Triad Chords, octave up. Too high. Quantize. Control. I didn't quantize, right? Do it by hand a little bit too. So this one over here is kind of sounding better. Ah, my face keeps getting in the way. Such is life. There we go. Let's get that up. All right, let's try and get some effects on there. Some wah. Now these are on all effects. Let's do audio effects. Wah. So I had this going on here. Let's just go ahead and put this on this channel. This is a bass ukulele wah that I custom rack that I put in. This is what it looks like here. Obviously my EQ is set for the ukulele bass. All right, let's get my back a little straighter here, y'all. Make sure my posture is good so I can hang in. Doing production for an hour. We got a little bit more time here, almost a half an hour more. So this is where we have a melody going on in our verse, and we're gonna now go and drop this, Command D, duplicate. Make sure you're in your master channel up here, right? So here, Command D makes the next one down. I'll do one more, Command D. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna take this out on the first one, comes in on the second, and then on the third one, I'm gonna have my top melody come in. And this is where a new instrument sound can come through. So let's get into this. This is cool that there's some demo sets in this big brass. And we can even just like load, you know, a portion of this potentially. Vibraphone. Vibraphone could be cool. Dun dun dun, the wheel, the wheel, the wheel. Okay, here's the vibraphone. It came into the very end, right? So we want to bring this into our melodies and bring this as our instrument. You know what? I don't think that the Redux is serving this one, so I'm going to bring this one out one more time, and I'll say Melody Redux. So there's really no limit to how many different melodies we can have and then put them all into a master melody. But so this vibraphone will be on its own here. All right. Little did I know I was making up something. Not quite wanting that instrument. Sax ensemble shortcuts. All right. Because I was hearing some type of big brass band. There's a couple in here that I wanted to just throw in. And these are ways that you can kind of have a quick shortcut. Notice how it's showing you the keys and E's of where these are at, these instruments. And we're now playing this. Dun, dun, dun. Let's go ahead and take all of these off. So I'm in arrangement view here, and I just want to take these off, delete them. Oops. Control Z. Down here, select all, delete. All right. I'm not interested in recording these just yet in arrangement view. I just want to play along. All right, so this might even be an opportunity where these MIDI clips might actually be a cool thing. Groove at 120. So there's a bunch of stuff at 120, and we're a lot faster. So this might not actually work. I like that chord. Let's go ahead and add that in too. So these are just kind of some shortcuts into getting into different sounds. So this is actually in a specific key. Now, this is where you can kind of open up the entirety of what you're looking at and change up what the instrument is to match the key that you're in, right? So this is kind of showing all the different sounds and what is being triggered on which instruments, what effects are in here, coming in here, just opening up all these things, moving my head once again so you can kind of see what I'm opening up. All right, so we have a few things at the very end that kind of turn on and off depending on what our presets are doing over here, right? All right, so I'm liking the sound of this. Now, as we're going through, we are going to get into what sounds, what octave we want. And it might even be that we have multiple octaves, right? So let's go ahead and type this in. And all right, let's get that melody. And my head keeps getting in the way. Let's bring it there so you can kind of see there. All right, so look where my mouse is. My mouse is, and I'm gonna play there. Now that I have that in there, I'm going to mess around with the effects a little bit. So this is one that I think I'm going to make longer and then have this effect come through. So doubling the loop, pressing double loop with my push 2. Or you can, if you don't have a push, you can just select that area and duplicate loop, Command D if you're highlighted here. I'm going to do a long one and then get into automating the effect that I like, which is this vintage. I'm going to say show automation. When I come back in to this section, now sax ensemble vintage is in. We're going to go ahead and put this to on and put another dot, put this to off. So as we play, this might be a little bit too long. Just to cut this in half. All right, that's that loop now. All right. So, and I also notice that this is something that I want to octave. So select all, copy, and paste. And I'm going to go shift up and bring that back to the beginning. Make sure it's aligning with the other one. And let's listen to this. All right, so I'm liking this, but I think it's actually the lower octave that I want. Let's go ahead and fold these. So notice how this is the one we just brought in. And we're going to go ahead and go, I'm holding the shift button and pressing down, down. All right, going to a lower octave. I really want some vibraphone. So this is where your upper left-hand side can really help you out just by finding the sounds you want. Okay, that one sound right there could be pretty cool. Look, it goes from F2 to F5. It shows you how many octaves it has. Once again, a little bit too much of the Redux. Let's bring that out. Dragging that over. And now this is where we can adjust some of the details of it, right? To be like, how much sustain do we want on this, right? This is where you dampen it. Pretty cool sample. And this is... And I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right scale here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go to scale D minor. And all right, shows up Bryce. Going down one beyond that. Make sure I'm in record mode here. Playing that right there. Putting some effects on this. Now this is where your EQs can really come in handy, is getting the right sounds you want. I just like to put in just a basic EQ. Look, I put this in my favorites, actually, EQ 03, because I drag and drop it in, and it has this rolling off right here. So I can cut the exact frequencies I want. And anything I don't want, take out. Phaser. Put a phaser on that. You know what? This is actually a cool one to just put on. I used this before on the other instrument. EQ I could take out. I'm not interested in that one necessarily. putting a lot of just kind of colorization on top of. Now, if something is happening too often, you can easily take that out. I'm going to make that lower. And for example, this right here is happening quite a bit. I can go ahead and duplicate this, double the loop, and take out the second one, right? So it's going to do half as many. Offbeat. There we go. All right, so we're back in here. This is the basic breakdown. Starting to get the energy up. I only do capitals if it is a reason, such as a group. This one, I'm going to just copy and paste that in. So we have now these bass lines. With this is actually our matrix horns and a wavetable. I'm gonna go ahead and take that right into but this one needs to be octave up. Let's just listen to this other melody. We're almost done here for the day. Nice. Nice little breakdown to cut time, right? So showing the 80 BPM over here. This guitar is pretty clean over here. Let's go ahead and just changing it. All right. So what I really love to do is start organizing this. The last thing we'll do today is bring in all of our drums and group them and rename them capitals. I'm not quite sure what we'll do with them, but maybe put them in the rhythm section, etc. But for now, let's go ahead and just put all these Okay, drums actually, this vocal part actually was in the drums too. Slide that in, throwing that into the drums. We're just going to clean up before we head out. I would really suggest you guys keep up with the cleanup. Keep up with the cleanup when you're doing your stuff. Because so that when you come back to it, you just know exactly what you're in. Here's your bass all. I like to say all for when they're kind of the final little chunks. Melody Redux, and the vibraphone's kind of on its own. And then we have our MIDI. These two are other ones on their own. So here we go. All of these can be grouped into another group, and this will be called Melody, rename, MEL, no effects. All capital because it's a group, and then I'll hide these two and put these into Melody all. So that's kind of a general kind of game plan of getting your titles all organized. When it's all, it's going to be a final, right? Drums, you can say drums all here. And we have a couple little ones that we're not quite sure where they're going to go, but all of these are eventually going to go into, we'll keep this MIDI one out, right? Because it's going to be kind of our listening one, but we're going to go Command G, and this is going to be rename the all. So when it passes through here, this is going to be generally where we can put different effects. If we want effects on everything, this is where we'd put it. I'm going to go ahead and just do one little jam out to end this today on some effects that I personally like. Here's a Will Marshall DJ effect that's been customized by myself. If you guys want this customized DJ effect, just let me know through email, sf@garnishmusicproduction, and I'd be happy to send it to you. All right, here we go. Let's try and jam this a little bit. All right. Yep. Fade to gray, just you can see the effects of what it's doing. As these filters come in, it's throwing a delay. Metallic. Cheap radio. I'm going to change this to 1 bar, which is shortcut Command 9. You can see up here, my names are going to be helping me out with organizing this. Cool. The pump up really does a lot with that slide up. All right, you guys. So that's what we got for today. West Coast Wednesdays, every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Thanks for sticking with us. Last night, we had Javad Bhutta and Lenny Kaiser at our studio in Soul Graffiti Studios. Thank you, SF Garnish Music and Garnish Music Network, for inviting us out weekly. You can find us on our social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and we're going live every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. for our free Ableton workshops. We also go into Logic, Pro Tools, and different sound design, mixing and mastering tricks of the trade. So once again, my name is Justin Ancheta with SF Garnish and and Soul Graffiti Studios. It's been a long day, and I will see you guys in the near future. Check us out, sf.garnishmusicproduction.com. Email us at sf@garnishmusicproduction.com or call us at 510-463-4769. That's 510-463-GROW. Take care.